Don't look at her, Mia whispered. Look at the napkin. Luke Harrison stopped with his fork halfway to his mouth. A white cocktail napkin had slid across the polished floor of Briar House and stopped beside his shoe. Four blue letters were written across it in a hurried hand. Help. Luke did not reach for his phone. He did not turn toward the woman who had dropped it. He did what 6 years behind a 911 console had trained him to do. He listened to the room. Soft jazz near the bar. Silverware against porcelain. A server asking about wine. A man laughing too loudly 3 tables away. And beneath all of it, something quieter. Control. Luke bent as if picking up a receipt. When he straightened, he looked across the candlelit dining room. The woman at the nearby table wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Luke's monthly rent. She looked composed, polished, untouchable. She was smiling. That was what felt wrong. The smile appeared when the silver-haired man beside her spoke. It disappeared when he looked away. Then it returned the moment his eyes came back. The woman's phone sat near his elbow. Her purse was behind another man's chair. A leather folder lay open in front of her. A silver pen rested over a signature line. Luke met her eyes for 1 second. No nod. No wave. No dramatic signal. Just 1 second. Then she lowered her gaze toward the napkin in his hand. Her chin moved barely half an inch. Yes. Mia leaned closer. Dad? Luke folded the napkin once and slid it beneath the edge of his plate. Keep eating, sweetheart. Is she in trouble? I don't know yet. You know. Luke looked at his 9-year-old daughter. She had inherited her mother's habit of saying the thing adults were trying not to say. I think she might be. Across the room, the silver-haired man stopped speaking. His eyes moved from the woman to Luke. Then to the floor. Then to Luke's plate. His expression barely changed. But Luke saw recognition arrive. The man pushed back his chair. Mia saw him stand. Dad. I know. The man crossed the restaurant with the smooth patience of someone who expected every room to cooperate. He stopped beside table 15. Everything all right? Over here? Luke looked up. Perfectly fine. The man smiled. Good. Ms. Caldwell values privacy. Luke held his gaze. So do I. The man's eyes dropped to Luke's hand. Then to the edge of the plate. Enjoy your dinner. Planning to. He returned to his table. Only after he sat down did Luke breathe out. Mia whispered, that was creepy. Luke almost smiled. Eat your potatoes. I'm serious. So am I. 6 years earlier, Luke had worked nights in a county emergency communications center. Most calls were simple. Some were not. Sometimes a terrified person asked about pizza because someone nearby could hear every word. Sometimes a caller said everything was fine while tapping a phone against a wall. Sometimes there was no scream, no clear sentence, no dramatic confession. Only a pause too long. A breath held too carefully. An answer that did not match the question. Luke had learned something those nights that never left him. Fear often borrowed ordinary language. After his wife Rachel died following a sudden illness, Luke left emergency dispatch. The night shift paid more than the facility's job he eventually took, but Mia had been 3 years old and waking before sunrise asking why Daddy always left when the stars came out. Luke chose less money and more mornings. He never regretted it. Now he looked across Briar House at a stranger smiling because someone expected her to. Mia lowered her voice. What are we going to do? Luke took a slow drink of water. First, we make sure she really wants help. 3 days earlier, Natalie Caldwell had been alone on the 38th floor of Caldwell Medical Systems when a number refused to make sense. $86 million had left an acquisition reserve in 6 transfers. Each one looked routine from a distance. Vendor deposits. Consulting fees. Licensing costs. But Natalie had spent 15 years learning how ordinary numbers could hide extraordinary problems. She checked the transfers again. Then again. 3 companies appeared repeatedly. 2 approval chains crossed in ways they should not have. Her own name appeared on authorizations she did not remember signing. By midnight, the pattern pointed toward Derek Sloan, the company's chief operating officer. The next morning, Derek entered her office carrying a leather folder. "You should see this before you call anyone." Inside were emails bearing Natalie's name. Digital approvals. Instructions written in language close enough to her own style to be believable. "These are false." Derek sat across from her. "Can you prove that before the market opens tomorrow?" "I can prove the money moved through vendors tied to your office." "Then prove it." By noon, 2 board members had received copies of the fabricated correspondence. By afternoon, 1 attorney on Natalie's internal legal team stopped returning calls. At 4:30, a board member she trusted sent a message asking whether she had been under unusual financial pressure. Someone was building a story around her. Derek suggested dinner at Briar House. Public place. Neutral ground. A temporary solution. Natalie went because refusing would let him tell the board she had avoided a meeting about urgent company risk. Now that temporary solution lay open beneath restaurant lights. Transfer executive authority for 30 days. Approve an internal review led by Derek. Sign before midnight. Do that, Derek told her quietly, and tomorrow stays manageable. Natalie kept her expression still. "And if I don't?" Derek glanced around the dining room. "Then the board receives everything at 8 in the morning." Her phone had somehow ended up near his hand. Her purse sat behind one of his advisors. Nothing looked dramatic enough for strangers to intervene. That was the point. Then Natalie saw table 15. A father cutting food for his daughter. An inexpensive jacket. Tired eyes. A man listening more than talking. More importantly, a man who looked observant. She wrote one word. Help. And let the napkin fall. Now Luke waited. He did not call the police immediately. He had learned that helping badly could make a dangerous situation worse. He raised 2 fingers toward a server. "Could I speak with your manager?" Less than a minute later, Leah Benton approached. "Is everything all right, sir?" Luke glanced toward Natalie. "The woman at that table may need help." Leah followed his eyes. "Ms. Caldwell? You know her. Everyone in this building knows who she is." Luke slid the folded napkin forward just enough for Leah to see the blue letters. Her professional smile disappeared. "Did she give this to you?" "She dropped it beside my table and confirmed with eye contact." Leah looked again. Derek was speaking. Natalie sat motionless. "What do you want me to do?" Luke picked up the restaurant receipt beside Mia's plate. "Bring her fresh water." Leah frowned. Luke wrote one sentence. "If you want us to call someone, touch the glass twice. Put this under the coaster." Leah read it. "Why not just call now?" "Because I want the choice to stay hers." Leah studied him for a moment. "What do you do?" "I used to dispatch 911 calls." "That explains the calm." "No. That came later." Leah folded the note beneath her order pad. Mia watched her walk away. "Why twice? Once could be an accident. And twice? Twice is a decision." Waiting was harder than moving. Leah approached Natalie's table carrying fresh water. "Ms. Caldwell, I'm sorry. This one has been sitting too long." Derek barely looked at her. Natalie did. The note was under the coaster. Her eyes moved over it. Once. Then again. Luke focused on Mia's plate. Across the room, Natalie put 2 fingers around the glass. She touched the rim once. Luke waited. Derek leaned toward her. 30 days, Natalie. After that, the board can restore whatever it wants. Natalie nodded as though considering him. Then her fingertip touched the glass a second time. Luke exhaled. That's our answer. Leah passed table 15. Luke spoke without looking up. Preserve the dining room cameras. Call the police quietly. Leah nodded. Anything else? Don't confront him. She walked away. For several seconds nothing happened. Then Derek stopped talking. He followed Natalie's gaze. Straight to Luke. He stood. This time, he was not smiling when he started across the room. He put the smile back on before he arrived. Who are you? Luke set down his water. Luke Harrison. That wasn't my question. Then ask the one you mean. Derek's eyes hardened. Why are you involving yourself in a private business meeting? I'm eating dinner with my daughter. You've been watching us. I notice things. Derek looked at Luke's jacket. Building maintenance, correct? Luke did not ask how he knew. Yes. Briar House is connected to the Caldwell Tower complex. Your uniform logo is familiar. Luke glanced down. A small patch from his employer was stitched near the pocket. Derek smiled. This room can be confusing if you aren't accustomed to certain kinds of conversations. Mia stopped eating. Luke saw what Derek wanted. Embarrassment. Anger. A reaction large enough to make Luke look unstable. My daughter is watching, Luke said. Derek blinked. What does that have to do with anything? Everything. Luke's voice stayed calm. She's watching whether I let someone else decide what kind of man I become just because they have more money than I do. Derek's smile disappeared. I think it would be better if you left. I disagree. That was not a suggestion. Then speak to the manager. Derek turned. Leah was already approaching. Is there a problem? This gentleman is interfering with Ms. Caldwell's meeting. I want him removed. Leah looked at Luke. Then Natalie. Then the water glass. Before I remove a guest, I'd like to hear what Ms. Caldwell wants. Derek stepped slightly into her line of sight. There is no reason to involve her. I think there is. Derek's jaw tightened. Natalie is under considerable pressure tonight. Leah answered evenly. Then perhaps she should be allowed to answer for herself. Every part of Derek's expression remained polite. Except his eyes. He walked back to Natalie's table. Luke watched him sit. Then Derek did something Luke had not expected. He handed Natalie her phone. For half a second, Luke thought the situation had changed. Natalie did too. Derek leaned closer. Go ahead. She looked at him. Call anyone you want. His voice remained quiet. Call the board. Call outside counsel. Call the police. Tell them you came to a public restaurant voluntarily, sat through dinner, and then claimed your chief operating officer stole your phone and forced you to sign a document you never signed. Natalie's hand froze around the device. Derek continued. Then I'll send them your emails. They're fabricated. Prove it tonight. I will. After the market opens. He tapped the folder. Your choice. For the first time, Natalie understood the deeper trap. Derek did not need to physically stop her from calling anyone. He needed her to believe that every possible move could be turned against her. He had returned the phone because now he thought fear would do the work for him. Luke saw Natalie holding the device. Mia whispered, he gave it back. Yes. So she can call now. Luke watched Natalie's face. Not everything that looks like freedom feels like it. Derek raised one hand toward a restaurant security employee. Luke's stomach tightened. The security employee approached Leah first. Derek spoke just loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. This man has been staring at Ms. Caldwell, passing notes, and interfering with a confidential business discussion. I'm concerned he's harassing her. Luke knew the tactic instantly. Take true details. Put them in the wrong order. Make the truth sound suspicious. Leah stepped forward. That is not what I observed. Derek pointed toward the napkin beneath Luke's plate. He took something from our table. It landed beside my chair, Luke said. And you kept it? Yes. You passed a secret message? Yes. You contacted the manager? Yes. Derek looked at the security employee. He's admitting all of it. Mia squeezed Luke's hand. Dad. I'm right here. The security employee spoke carefully. Sir, we may need you to step away from the dining room while we sort this out. Before Luke could answer, Derek reached into his jacket and placed a business card on the table. Mr. Harrison, he said, loud enough for the closest diners to hear, I'm trying to avoid embarrassing you in front of your daughter. Your employer services several buildings connected to companies represented in this room. I'd hate for a misunderstanding tonight to become a professional problem tomorrow. Luke looked at the card. There it was. Not a direct threat. Something cleaner. Something that could later be denied. Mia looked at her father. Can he get you fired? Derek answered before Luke could. No one said anything about that. Luke finally looked up. That's true. Derek relaxed slightly. Luke continued. You just wanted a 9-year-old to imagine it. The security employee glanced at Derek. For the first time, the polished version of the story developed a crack. Derek picked up the card. You're being dramatic. Luke shook his head. No. I'm being precise. That word mattered. Precision had kept people alive during Luke's years in emergency dispatch. It kept panic from becoming assumption. It kept one frightened sentence from turning into the wrong response. And right now, precision meant refusing to accuse Derek of anything Luke could not prove. It also meant refusing to pretend Derek had said nothing. The security employee spoke again. Sir, we still need you to step away while we sort this out. Luke nodded. Okay. Leah frowned. Wait. Derek turned toward Natalie. Tell them. Natalie looked up. What? Tell them this man is making you uncomfortable. The restaurant seemed quieter. Natalie looked toward Luke. Luke did not nod. Did not shake his head. Did not ask for anything. Derek leaned closer. If you turn this into a scene now, every person here becomes a witness to you losing control during a corporate crisis. There it was. Not a threat of violence. A threat of narrative. Natalie's mouth opened. Nothing came out. The security employee gestured toward Luke. Sir. Luke stood slowly. Mia stood with him. You didn't do anything wrong, she whispered. Luke crouched slightly. Sometimes being calm matters more than being believed first. But they think you did something. Maybe for a minute. Mia looked across the room. Natalie's face was pale. Derek reached for the leather folder. There. It's handled. He began closing it. Mia turned toward Natalie. Did my dad scare you? Derek looked sharply at her. This isn't something for a child. Mia ignored him. Her voice shook. Did he do something wrong? No one moved. Luke wanted to protect her from the room. But he also understood what she had done. She had asked the only question Derek could not answer for Natalie without exposing himself. Natalie looked at Mia. Then at Luke. Then at the phone in her own hand. Derek spoke first. You don't have to explain yourself. Natalie stood. No, the word was quiet. Derek turned toward her. Natalie looked at Mia. Your father did not scare me. Leah took one step closer. Did he interfere with your dinner? Natalie looked directly at Luke. No, Derek opened his mouth. Natalie raised one hand. He helped me. The security employee stopped. Mia released Luke's hand only because she had been gripping it so tightly. Derek's face changed. Natalie. She looked at him. My phone is mine. It's in your hand. My purse. One of Derek's advisors moved immediately. I can get it. Natalie stopped him. No. I'll get it. She walked around the table and picked up her purse herself. Then she looked at the leather folder under Derek's hand. And that stays here. Derek gave a short laugh. This has gone far enough. No, Natalie said. It went too far before dinner. Leah appeared beside her carrying a clear envelope. Inside was the napkin. Help. Derek stared at it. We preserved it, Leah said. Natalie looked at Luke. Where is the note? Luke handed over the restaurant receipt. Leah placed it in a second sleeve. Derek shook his head. So now we're turning napkins into evidence. Natalie looked at him. No. We're turning your behavior into a record. The front doors opened. 2 uniformed officers entered. No dramatic rush. No sirens. Leah met them and spoke quietly. One officer approached Natalie. Ma'am, the manager said someone here requested assistance. Natalie looked at Luke. Then Mia. Then Derek. I did. Derek raised both hands slightly. There has been a misunderstanding. The officer's attention moved to the folder. Then we can clear up what happened. Derek closed the folder and stood. This is confidential company property. I'm leaving. Natalie stepped between him and the aisle. Put it down. Move. No, Luke stayed where he was. The officer raised a hand. Sir, nobody is leaving with disputed property until we understand what we're dealing with. Derek smiled without humor. Disputed? I'm the chief operating officer. Natalie answered. And I'm the chief executive officer. Derek looked around. For the first time. Title did not solve the problem. He changed tactics again. He opened the folder. You want everyone to see this? Natalie's face tightened. Derek pulled out the first page. Temporary executive authority. 30 days. No transfer of ownership. No permanent removal. This is the document she's calling coercion. The first officer looked at Natalie. Were you asked to sign it? Yes. Did you sign? No, Derek spread his hands. Then there is no crime here. Luke said nothing. He had learned long ago that a person trying to control a call often talked too much when silence stopped working. Natalie pointed to the pages underneath. That's not why I asked for help. Derek's eyes moved to her. The transfer schedules. Warren Blake, who had barely spoken all evening, went still. Natalie saw it. Warren. He looked down. What? What is in the back of that folder? Derek closed it. Enough. Warren's hand tightened around his water glass. Natalie stepped closer. You knew. Warren did not answer. Derek spoke quietly. Think very carefully. That sentence changed him. Warren looked at Derek. Then at the police officer. Then at Natalie. I should have said something 2 weeks ago. Derek's jaw tightened. Warren. There are schedules behind the authorization pages. Natalie stared at him. What schedules? Vendor transfers. Holding companies. Approval drafts. Prepared by whom? Warren swallowed. Derek's office sent them to legal. Derek laughed. That is not what happened. Warren looked at him. I saved the email. The room went silent. For the first time all evening, Derek had no immediate answer. The officer asked Warren to step aside and speak separately. Derek reached for the folder. Natalie put her hand on it first. No, he stared at her. You are destroying your company. Natalie shook her head. I think I almost helped you do it. The folder stayed on the table. Within an hour, Natalie's independent outside counsel arrived with 2 members of the audit committee. The police did not attempt to solve an $86 million financial case over dinner. They did something more important. They preserved what existed. The napkin. The note. The restaurant. Security video. The phones. The folder. The statements. The timeline. That was enough for the night. Luke gave only facts. She dropped the napkin. She confirmed the message. We sent a note asking if she wanted someone called. She touched the glass twice. Derek asked security to remove me. Mia sat beside him with a slice of chocolate pie. She had stopped shaking. Dad? Yes. Was I bad for talking when he told me not to? Luke looked at her. No, because you always say not to interrupt adults. I also say rules need a reason. So I can interrupt whenever I have a reason. Luke sighed. We'll revisit that tomorrow. She smiled. Across the room, Natalie was speaking with outside counsel. For the first time, nobody answered for her. The first independent review began before sunrise. At 8:30 the next morning, the 38th floor of Caldwell Medical Systems felt nothing like Briar House. 12 board members sat around the long walnut table. Outside counsel. Forensic accountants. Independent directors. No Derek. Natalie stood at the head of the room. $86 million left our acquisition reserve through 6 transfers, she said. The approvals attributed to me are being examined as fabricated records. The forensic team had already found enough to justify immediate action. But not enough for anyone in the room to pretend the case was already solved. One accountant projected the transaction timeline onto the wall. 6 transfers. 6 authorization records. 3 outside entities. Then she added a second timeline beneath it, Natalie's verified travel, board meetings, secure login records, and device history. One approval had been entered while Natalie was speaking at a medical conference in Boston from a device registered inside the Chicago headquarters. Another had been created 9 minutes after her credentials were reset by an administrator connected to Derek's office. A third contained language copied from a legitimate authorization Natalie had signed 8 months earlier, including a typo that had already been corrected in the company template. The room changed. Not because the evidence proved every accusation. Because the fabricated story had finally developed seams people could see. One director leaned forward. Who had administrator access? The accountant looked down at her report. 4 people. 2 reported through information security. 2 through operations. Everyone knew who controlled operations. Natalie did not look satisfied. She looked angry at the system that had made the fraud possible. The vendor trail led through entities connected to people working with Derek. Access logs showed unusual credential use. Several internal complaints had been routed back through executives now under investigation. The board voted to freeze disputed accounts, suspend every officer connected to the transactions, preserve communications, and authorize a fully independent review. Two directors who had received the fabricated emails stepped away from oversight until investigators could determine what they knew and when they knew it. Natalie insisted on one additional change before the meeting ended. No internal reporting channel can terminate inside an executive office again. A director looked up. You want an outside whistleblower system? I want a system nobody in this room can quietly control. The motion passed. At noon, Natalie asked her assistant to contact Luke. He arrived during his lunch break wearing work boots and a navy maintenance shirt. The boardroom was nearly empty. Natalie stood beside the window. The board wants to thank you publicly. Luke looked at the city below. For what? For what happened last night. I noticed a message. You believed it. That's not the same thing as solving what happened. No, Natalie folded her hands. There will be press when parts of this become public. The board thinks people should know what you did. Luke looked at the empty chairs. They know what happened. Yes. Then they know enough. Natalie studied him. You saw what everyone else missed. Luke shook his head. I saw a person asking for help. That mattered. It did. He looked at her. But you don't need a hero. Natalie frowned. Then what do we need? People who protect the truth before they know whether protecting it will cost them something. The word settled. Over the room. Natalie had spent years measuring power through voting shares, access, authority, market value, and who returned a call immediately. Luke measured it differently. Responsibility. Before he left, Natalie asked one final question. Why did you believe me? Luke paused at the door. Because needing help doesn't make someone weak. Then he went back to work. The investigation lasted 6 weeks. During the second week, Natalie learned something that bothered her almost as much as the money. A junior finance analyst had questioned one of the vendors 3 months earlier. Her report had been marked resolved without ever reaching the audit committee. A procurement manager had raised a similar concern. His message had been redirected back to operations. Neither employee had failed. The system had failed them. Natalie called both personally. She did not apologize with a press release. She asked them to explain exactly where the reporting process had broken and made their answers part of the redesign. That mattered because the night at Briar House was no longer just about what Derek had done to Natalie. It was about how many quieter warnings had been ignored before one finally landed beside the right table. Most of the diverted funds were frozen or recovered. Derek and several people connected to the transactions were removed from company operations while authorities continued their work. Warren cooperated fully. His cooperation did not erase the fact that he had stayed silent too long, but the saved email and records he preserved helped investigators reconstruct the scheme. The board replaced the internal reporting system with an independent outside channel. No executive could redirect complaints. No single office could approve major transfers. No one could quietly erase the next warning. 6 weeks after Briar House, Luke returned to table 15 with Mia. The restaurant looked almost exactly the same. Amber light. Soft piano. Polished glasses. Mia was explaining why chocolate pie should count as a food group. Luke was explaining why the government had not yet accepted her research. Then Mia looked toward the entrance. Dad. Natalie stood beside Leah. No. Advisors. No lawyer. No leather folder. No one holding her phone. She walked over alone. I hope I'm not interrupting. Mia pointed to the empty chair. We have pie. Natalie smiled. Then my timing is excellent. She sat. For several minutes they did not discuss Derek. Mia talked about school. Natalie asked real questions. Luke noticed something subtle. Natalie no longer checked the room every few seconds. Her phone rested beside her own hand. Eventually she looked at Luke. The first forensic review is complete. He waited. Most of the money has been frozen or recovered. The remaining transactions are still under investigation. And the reporting system? Changed. Outside control. Yes. Luke nodded. That matters. It should have existed before. Now it does. Natalie looked down at the table. I used to think being powerful meant having enough control that nobody could corner you. Luke said nothing. I was wrong. Mia leaned forward. Are you okay now? Natalie looked at her. 6 weeks earlier, the answer would have required calculation. Tonight it did not. I am. Leah arrived with 3 slices of pie. She placed a clean white napkin beside Natalie's plate. Natalie stared at it. Then laughed softly. She reached into her purse and took out a pen. Luke watched her write 2 words. Thank you. She looked at them. Then drew one clean line through the words. Mia frowned. Why did you cross it out? Natalie set the pen down. Because some things should be said out loud. She looked at Luke. Thank you. Luke nodded. Not for saving my company, Natalie continued. You didn't. The auditors, investigators, employees, and board had to do that. Luke waited. You did something smaller. Mia looked confused. Natalie smiled. And harder. She looked back at Luke. You believed me before you knew who I was. Before you knew whether helping me would make your life easier or harder. Luke looked at Mia. You asked for help. Someone should answer. Natalie's eyes softened. I think I finally understand why you stayed. Luke looked at his daughter. So does she. Mia smiled. Because I was watching. Luke raised an eyebrow. You were definitely watching. Natalie picked up the clean napkin. For 1 second, all 3 of them remembered the blue letters from 6 weeks earlier. Then Natalie folded the blank napkin once and placed it beside her plate. Nothing written on it. Nothing hidden. Nothing asking to be noticed. Around them, Briar House continued normally. Glasses touched tables. The piano played. Someone laughed near the bar. For once, ordinary meant safe. Mia took another bite of pie. Dad? Yes. If someone drops another napkin, are we helping them too? Luke looked across the room. First we ask what they need. Natalie smiled. That was the difference. Not rescue. Not control. Attention. Choice. And the quiet courage to believe someone before the whole room agrees.